We're going to look today for finding cube roots. We're going to start with square roots. Now, a square root is when you have a number times itself. This could be written as 2 squared. Well, to find this root, we put it underneath the radical. So 2 squared would be the same as saying, sorry, that's a terrible radical, would be the same as saying 2 times 2. There's one of each of them. It is multiplied, so the root is 2. So the root of 1, the square root of 1 equals 1. The square root of 4 equals 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 81 is 9. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 121 is 11. And lastly, the square root of 144 is 12. Now let's look at the meaning of cube roots. When you cube a number, let's go with 3. 3 cubed means 3 times 3 times 3. If I want to get back to this root, this base, I would take the cube root. So I put a 3 in front of my radical. I would put 3 cubed inside, and the root is 3. And this is one of those beautiful systems where math and language match up. If I have a rectangular prism, a cube, and it has a side of 3, a side of 3, and a side of 3, its volume is 3 cubed. So this is the volume, and then the root, the side length, equals 3. So the volume is 27, and the root that led to that is a side length of 3. So coming back to here, the cube root of 1 is 1. The cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of 27 is 3. The cube root of 64 is 4. The cube root of 125 is 5. The cube root of 216 is 6. The cube root of 343 is 7. The cube root of 512 is 8. The cube root of 729 is 9. The cube root of 1000 is 10. The cube root of 1331 is 11. And the cube root of 1728 is 12. Now let's start using some of these numbers. If I'm asked to solve the cube root of 512, it is an implied positive here. There is nothing in front. I'm going to come up to my chart, and I see that this equals 8. So another way to think about it, the cube root of 512 would be the cube root of 8 times 8 times 8, and we see the 8 in here. Now this one, what is the cube root of a negative 729? 729 is 9, but I want the negative. So if I look at this, negative 9 to the third power would equal negative 729. So the cube root is negative 9. And now we've got the cube root, let's make that an obvious cube, of negative 125 over 343. Well, 125 has a cube root of 5. 343 has a cube root of 7. And it would take a negative times a negative times a negative. So this would have to be a negative 5/7. Okay, let's take a look at some more problems. So if we're asked to evaluate this problem, It's 3 times the cube root of 125 minus 8. Using our order of operations, our PEMDAS, if you will, this becomes 3 times 5 minus 8. It becomes 15 minus 8, or 7, because the cube root of 125 is 5. And again, with order of operations, we're going to do this step first, the second step, and the third step, because this is still an exponent. Now, this one, I'm going to take the cube root of 27 to the third power. Well, the cube root of 27 is 3, and I'm going to take that to the third power. Let's not leave off my minus 4, so I'm doing the exponent first. I've got another exponent here. 3 to the third power would be 27 minus 4, which is 23. Something to keep in mind, if I have the cube root of something cubed, I'm going to just get what's under the radical initially. Okay, so this one equaled 23. This one equaled 7. Now I'm going to do some substituting. Okay, I want the cube root of 8 times y plus y. Y is 64. So I want the cube root of 8 times 64 plus 64. And where I would start with this, the cube root of 8 is 2. So I'm going to rewrite this to be 2 cubed, and the cube root of 64 is 4, so I'm going to rewrite that to be 4 cubed plus 64. Now if I'm taking the cube root and cubing it, I would have roots of 2 times 4 plus 64, so this would be 8 plus 64. So this would equal 72. If you aren't comfortable with finding the cube roots first, I could take the cube root of 8 times 64 plus 64, and I would multiply those. And for that, I would grab a calculator, and I'm going to multiply 8 times 64, and you can do that multiplication. I would get the cube root of 512, and then I would add the 64 to it. I would look back. The cube root of 512 is 8. So this would become 8 plus 64, and it would still equal 72. So there are slightly different ways to solve these problems. Okay, 2 times b minus the cube root of 9 times b when b is minus 3. So 2 times negative 3 minus the cube root of 9 times negative 3. So this would be negative 6 minus the cube root of negative 27. Well, negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 equals negative 27, so negative 3 is the root. So it would be negative 6 minus negative 3, or negative 6 plus 3, and for that we would get negative 3. So the entire answer for that one is a negative 3. Okay, if we have a surface area of a cube, and it has a volume of 27. So I want to know the surface area, but first I need to find the side length. So S, the side length, equals the cube root of the volume. So S equals the cube root of 27. So the side length is 3. Coming back to a quick sketch of the cube, we've got a side length of 3, a side length of 3, and a side length of 3. So the surface area would be the area of the top plus the bottom, the front plus the back, the left plus the right. But because these are squares, it is 6 times the area. In this case, it is 6 times side times side. 6 times 3 times 3. So this would become 3 times 3 is 9, 54 centimeters squared for the surface area. Thank you very much.